So then, we are back with more understandings from the Renewed Covenant, from the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of Israel, from the prophets of old, from the time of the prophets of Yahweh, giving us then understanding of the time of the end. The Mashiyach has then spoken many words regarding then the covenant yet maintained. It is simply a continuation of the covenant. In Gentile understanding, it is renewed because of then the 1,000 years that it was laid waste for so long. So it was simply renewed, understanding from the fact of the covenant being again re-established. But the true technical understanding is the covenant. There is only a covenant made with Abraham and then remained. And during the time, then, after then the sacrifice was Abraham, prior of was Abram. So then we understand there is not a new covenant in the fact of then another covenant. It is the same covenant, however the continuation, because Yahweh the Mashiyach came and He completed then part of it. So then, these days where people are watching many wars and rumors of wars, Yahweh said very precisely, the time is not yet. We find these in Mashiyach Yahweh, the 24th chapter, gives you then the understanding of the time of the end. For those that are Hebraic people saved in the Mashiyach, it is the layer of understanding of the time of the autumn feast. So if you say in layers to a Hebraic person saved in the Mashiyach, they understand it in layers. So we are speaking of the time and season of the autumn feast, or the second portion of the Torah and the prophets and the writings. So then a lot of people sending this telephone information or texting each other and speaking junk of the end of the world. They don't understand what they are talking about. They don't understand the prophecies. They don't understand Yahweh and His holy prophets. So any kind of enticement of Third World War or any sort of these kind of line, they are absolutely mistaken. And they should be reprimanded very sharply, because Yahweh said the time is not yet. He said then the people would be obviously involved with wars and rumors of wars, pestilences, earthquakes, but make sure then they are not troubled, because the time is not yet. So then when the Mashiyach explained this section of it, then we shift YershiYAhu then, where then the layer of the restoration comes. So then the Mashiyach is simply explaining what it is of the restoration and the reduction of the time at the same time, simultaneously. So no person, no young person receiving emails or then texting, and then those involved in the fight receiving those information via telephone or text computers should never be troubled, because the Mashiyach already spoke. And in fact, any Hebraic saved person should reprimand those people very sharply, stating Yahweh said the time is not yet. So then we understand where we stand and make sure then the Torah is perfectly intact and not played with. Because we find then in Mashiyach Yahweh, the 24th chapter, if speaking with the Gentiles, if speaking with Hebraics saved in the Mashiyach, would be the layer of understanding of the autumn feast spoken of by Yahweh the Mashiyach. So he spoke then and he said, "For you are bound to hear of revolutions and rumors of wars. Watch out and do not be disturbed, for it is required these events to take place, but the time of the end is not yet." So Yahweh is simply saying that there is yet another section of the prophets, and the prophecies must be then completed. the time of restoration. Those then that are saved in the Messiah from the Hebraic line, at certain point they are going to be in the land of Cush. Because the first holy city ever since the time of Yohanan then is returning, amongst many others. A lot of Gentiles are going to be obviously hired to do the work on the service area around the holy city. So then he began to have a focus in what the Messiah then is saying. Because a lot of events must take place first before of the Great War. So pondering upon the Great War is not required at the moment. What is required is for then save the Gentiles being prepared of servicing then the service area around the holy city, and obviously most importantly would be the saved in the Messiah, the Hebraic people, being ready when the Messiah then have them go into service. And most importantly the Levites involved. So we are during the time that is very important, making sure people solidly understand this is not the time of the end. The Messiah explained that simply the time of the initiation prior of the Great War. The Great War is far in the future. So then people enticing those enticers should be sharply reprimanded. There is not time of the end yet. There is a restoration going on, nations being restored, most importantly the cities are returning, the cities laid waste for centuries, then the holy city being then rebuilt, and the temple being rebuilt. So there is no enticement of war and of any kind. Those are merely some skirmishes that went on, and sometimes it's important engaged in those very precise areas of combat, but never enticing any further because the time is not yet. If we entice the war further than what Yahweh has told us, then we are in trouble with Yahweh, because he said the time is not yet. We are watching very closely, because a lot of people, they pretend to be people speaking in Yahweh's name, speaking of his holy prophecies, yet they entice people to go to war. It's no time for war, it's time for peace. However, there are steps of formation before then people are informed. Then we must emphasize the importance of refraining from enticing other people. And as you can observe and you can listen, the leaders of these nations, they are becoming very firm, indicating some of them are very understanding and they want then go forward with the plans, and they don't like to have people talking what they don't understand. If those nations, they did wrong, they must then bear the consequences for some time. But the time of the end is not yet. It's valid for any country around Israel. Syria, Iran, Iraq, Egypt, and then the whole gang over there. The time is not yet. It's not the time of the end. These prophecies we find many centuries ago extremely precise, as long as we understand times and seasons. We are during the times of what YershiYAhu has explained many centuries ago. Centuries. If I would give you a number, 2,000 years plus another 400 at least. So it's a long time ago. And as fresh as if you would take on the paper in the morning. Because we are during the time of then the restoration, and there are steps of formation until its completion then is evident. So please stay tuned, much more coming up.